Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so picture this. You're standing in your driveway, looking up at your house, and you spot it. A dip, maybe a weird wave, or an obvious sag in your roofline. If that's you right now, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we are bringing you a clear, highly specific, and totally no-fluff guide to sagging roof repair in San Diego for 2026. We're going to cut right through all the confusion and tell you exactly what's causing that sag, when you actually need to worry, and of course, exactly how much roofers are charging to fix it right now. Naturally, the very first question that pops into your head is this thing going to cave in? It's literally the most stressful thought a homeowner can have when they see their roof bowing. Okay, let's dive into this and honestly take a deep breath, because here in San Diego, a sudden collapse is almost never a sudden risk. See, a total collapse generally requires a massive overnight load event. In other parts of the country, that event is a heavy snowstorm. But since we obviously don't get snow loads here, a sagging roof isn't just going to fall in on you without warning. The real risk for us is progressive. It just slowly gets worse, it causes leaks, and it turns into a much, much more expensive repair the longer you put it off. To get you up to speed efficiently, here is our diagnostic journey for today. First, is it an emergency? Second, diagnosing from the street. Third, 4 common San Diego causes. Fourth, real costs in 2026. And fifth, the correct repair sequence. Think of yourself as the project manager, and we're treating your house like the patient. Right, so Section 1. Is it an emergency? Let's start the triage phase and address the immediate elephant in the room. The very first thing we need to establish is the hard line between a harmless surface issue and a deep structural issue. A shingle problem? That's just cosmetic surface wear. But a visible dip that you can physically see from the street? Yeah, that is never cosmetic. That is a framing or decking problem. It means something structural underneath the roofing material has actually moved. And trust me, it doesn't just magically move back into place on its own. The fix for this has to start in the attic, not up on the surface. But even with the gravity of a structural issue, if a sag has developed super slowly over many years, it can usually wait for a regularly scheduled roof inspection. However, there are 3 very specific situations that absolutely deserve a same-week call to a professional. First, if the sag appeared out of nowhere or grew visibly worse in just a single season. Second, if there's an active leak right over the sag, because, well, water is actively weakening a structure that is already failing. And third, if a dep shows up right after you've done a remodel or had some new equipment installed up in the attic. That usually means a truss or a rafter accidentally got cut, and it's quickly getting worse under the weight of the roof. Okay, Section 2. Diagnosing from the street. It's time to step outside and read your home's symptoms. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how directly the visible shape of the sag actually maps to the underlying disease. It's like a giant puzzle. If you look up and see soft, wavy dips in the spaces right between the rafters, you're likely dealing with decking failure, like rot or the plywood delaminating. Now, if you see one long, continuous dip running straight along the ridgeline, that usually points to framing deflection or rafters that are just way too undersized for the weight they're carrying. A sag right at the edge, down at the eave or facial line, that almost always means rotted rafter tails. And if there's a dip in just one concentrated, specific spot, that's localized damage, usually a point leak or, like we mentioned, a cut truss. So what's actually going on underneath? Let's move into Section 3, 4 common San Diego causes. Just about every sagging roof here traces back to one of these 4 local culprits. And honestly, the age of your house will narrow this down really fast. We've got tile weight on light framing, stacked roofing layers, rotted decking, and cut framing. Stacked layers happen because, well, California code allows 2 layers of shingles, and budget reef roofs often use that loophole to save money, which hides that conditions and adds a ton of weight. Rotted decking? We see that heavily in older 1920s to 1950s homes. Think of those classic bungalow blocks in El Cajon, mostly thanks to our coastal marine layer moisture or really slow leaks. And cut framing is your classic remodel mishap, usually someone getting a little too enthusiastic with a Sawzall in the attic. But the absolute biggest one here? Tile weight. This is a uniquely San Diego problem. There are thousands of local homes built before 1980 that have 2x4 rafters set 24 inches apart. Now, those were perfectly sized for lighter wood shake or maybe asphalt shingles. But in the 70s through the 90s, everybody wanted concrete tile. And putting that tile on literally triples the dead load on the roof. The framing manages to hold it up, sure, but over time, it bows and deflects under that immense pressure. Decades later, your roof plane is showing a massive, highly visible wave. So the crucial point is the money. What is this going to cost you? Section 4, Real Costs in 2026. Let's look at the hard, no-nonsense financial numbers. Keep in mind the repair cost follows the underlying cause, not how big the dip looks from your driveway. If the roofing has to come off anyway during a re-roof, decking replacement generally runs $120 to $250 per 4x8 sheet. And hey, pay close attention to that unit pricing. A reputable contractor will always price decking per sheet as a contingency line. If a contractor tries to quote your sagging roof with some vague financial allowance instead of per sheet pricing, walk away and keep shopping. Moderate decking rot usually adds $1,500 to $5,000 to a standard re-roof. Localized framing repairs, those sit right around $1,500 to $4,000. Rotted rafter tails are a bit smaller, running $100 to $300 per tail. But if you are dealing with that massive tile weight deflection we just talked about, full framing reinforcement sits at the very high end. We're talking $4,000 to $9,000. Make no mistake, this is a major structural fix that involves sistering or attaching brand new lumber alongside your weakened rafters to permanently correct the deflection. It is serious work. Which leads us to Section 5, the correct repair sequence. Because honestly, this sequence matters more than the product. Skipped steps are exactly why some really unfortunate homes get re-roofed twice and still end up sagging. First things first, we have to debunk the myth of the quick fix. If your sag comes from undersized framing or if you're upgrading to a heavier roofing material, roofers can't just show up and start swinging hammers. San Diego's permit process strictly requires structural calculations from a licensed engineer before they'll even issue the permit. So that plan review, it typically adds 2 to 4 weeks of pure waiting time before the physical work even begins.
Let's move to and see how this builds step by step. This is the non-negotiable procedure that guarantees the dip won't come back. Step 1, an attic inspection to actually confirm the cause using daylight, string lines, and moisture checks. Step 2, defining the scope, pinpointing exactly which sheets or rafters are failing. Step 3, securing that engineering and getting the permits done. Step 4, the physical framing and decking work. And keep in mind, city inspectors actually have to check these framing repairs before they get covered up. And finally, Step 5, the roofing materials are applied last. If it is done in this exact order, the dip is cured for good.
To wrap up our explainer today, I want you to keep this one core takeaway in your mind. A sagging roof is the framing or decking talking. It's literally telling you that something underneath is structurally compromised, and you really cannot just ignore it hoping your insurance is going to eventually bail you out. Unless a tree literally just fell on your house, insurance policies here in California almost always exclude sagging caused by age, wear, or overloaded framing. They just classify it as deferred maintenance. Proactive diagnostics are entirely on you as the homeowner. So I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. Go outside and look up at your roofline today. Is your roof just aging gracefully, or is that visible dip actually asking for a structural engineer? It is time to stop guessing from the driveway. Use the symptoms we talked about today to understand your home, and then get a professional, totally free attic inspection to find out for sure. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will catch you on the next one.